Alright, folks. So the Nevada caucus is actually today, and I've got a breaking story for you today. You guys probably haven't heard about this. Has not got much attention, unfortunately. So hopefully this will shine some light on it, because I know there's going to be something crazy that happens. But this article headline reads, Nevada Democratic Party asks caucus volunteers to sign confidentiality agreements. Nevada State Democratic Party is asking site leaders for Saturday's caucuses to sign NDAs that would prevent them from speaking to the media. The news comes just one day before the Nevada Democratic caucuses. The caucus process here in Nevada has come under intense scrutiny after a similar process melted down in Iowa. And so I covered a story where they're using these iPads and Google Sheets, I believe it was, or Google something. They have not been briefed, or actually, those people have not really been briefed or shown how to do it. The volunteers, that is. And so it already is looking like a complete ish show. And says a Nevada State Democratic official told CNN it's standard practice to request staff and volunteers to sign an NDA because they are privy to strategic information, and said the party also required NDAs in 2018. CNN obtained a copy of one of the 4-page agreements, which states in part, I will take all measures necessary to protect the secrecy of and avoid disclosure and unauthorized use of confidential information of the NSDP. The NDA appears to be one that is used for other purposes by the NSDP, since it also references activities other than the caucuses. If I'm a volunteer and answering phones at the NSDP office or volunteering at an official NSDP event, I'm a representative of the NSDP and am not authorized to speak to the press unless given permission by the executive director or communications director. It goes on to say that the interest in Nevada politics may cause them to be contacted by reporters, and that those inquiries must be referred to the ED or CD, and it adds in all caps, there are no exceptions. Also specifies they cannot provide information to journalists on background or off the record. And so it says Seth Morrison, who had planned and trained to be a site leader, was presented with the agreement Friday when signed it, and wouldn't sign it. After the party failed to convince him to sign it, he was then offered a lower-level volunteer position and quit. Morrison says the party told him the reason for the NDA was for the, quote, security of the election process because site leaders have access to sensitive information, then the wrong hands could compromise the vote. Quote, the wording of the agreement is very broad, Morrison told CNN, noting that the confidential information covered a lengthy list of business methods, practices, and other information. If I were to, quote, disparage the party or talk to the media without their permission, they could sue me for everything I own. And so basically he quit because he just couldn't do that. So basically what's going on here, folks, is they're trying to shut them down. Now, I don't know if they required NDAs in 2016, but if you weren't around in the 2016 primary, in Nevada, there was all kinds of fuckery going on, left and right, center, everywhere. There was just crazy stuff going on in Nevada. And so what happened in Iowa was there were a lot of mistakes, okay? Were they really mistakes or were they on purpose? I don't know. But there would be numbers out wrong. So, for example, they would have Bernie Sanders somehow go from having more, he would have less votes in the final alignment than he would in the first alignment, even though he was already a viable candidate in the first alignment. And so that's impossible because you can't lose support once you're viable. It's not possible. People can't leave. That's only if you're not viable. And so how was he higher in the first alignment when he was a viable candidate in the first round? And then he would win the most votes and he would get less SDEs than the other candidates. And so there were multiple occasions of this, and so that's what the Bernie Sanders campaign documented. But the only reason we were able to actually see those and fix those is because the party precinct chairs and the precinct captains released the pictures of their own documentation. And so they essentially gave us the record, and that's why we were able to match them up and say, hold on a second, these numbers here are off. You just gave Deval Patrick a crap ton of SDEs when they should be for Bernie Sanders. You remember that, right? Deval Patrick, they gave a bunch of SDEs to incorrectly. And the only reason we know about that stuff is because of the precinct captains and chairs releasing that information. And so what they're trying to do here is they're trying to squash all that. They're trying to be like, nuh-uh-uh. We want to rig it under secrecy. We don't want to allow this to get out. And so that's why they're making them sign non-disclosure agreements. And this is more, this is further proved by this comment here. In Iowa, state that holds a party-run caucus, and Iowa Democratic Party aide tells CNN, quote, caucus volunteers weren't asked to sign NDAs. So this is further, nail in the coffin proof of what I'm saying here, which is that they saw what happened in Iowa. The only reason Iowa wasn't able to be fully rigged without a ton of scrutiny was because of, the transparency that ended up coming out with these precinct chairs and captains. And so what they're trying to do is like, holy crap, what can we do to basically rig this election while also keeping it under wraps? And so let's make them sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. So they can't talk to the media like they did with Iowa. They can't put out, a picture of stuff on social media. You can't do that. So, this is what's happening. The Nevada caucus is going to be held today. I should be doing live coverage of the event. So, hopefully this news made it to you, because I know a lot of people are not talking about it. It's probably the first time you heard of it.